Sometimes you're at the right place at the right time and you can capture that amazing photo, the thing that has the flowing water or the rushing clouds or whatever the case may be. But sometimes all you have is your phone and that's about it. So how do we get those really cool effects like smooth running water and rushing by clouds? Well, I'm going to show you in this video. Hey, what's up everybody? Justin Seeley here. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be diving into Adobe Photoshop and I'm going to show you how to create that silky smooth look on clouds or water or anything that generally when you use a long exposure in photography, that look that you get. This is something that a lot of experienced photographers use to sort of capture and show motion. However, with a lot of the modern devices that we have in our lives, we're not able to control the amount of time that the shutter is left open, unless of course you have a specialized app for it. So how do we get that look of silky smooth water or clouds washing over us? Well, actually, it's pretty easy, and you can do it using a tool called the Path Blur tool in Photoshop. Let's check it out. So here I am inside of Photoshop, and basically what I want to do with this shot is I want to make the clouds look as though they are kind of rushing by us at the top here, but I want to leave the city alone. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is first convert this to a smart object, because I only want to work with a smart object because that's going to leave me the most flexibility to turn the effect on and off, and also to mask out specific areas, because when I run the blur, I don't want to blur out the entire city, only the clouds. So let's right click the layer and choose Convert to Smart Object. Once I do that, I'm going to go up to the Filter menu, and then I'm going to go down to Blur Gallery and select Path Blur. Now the Path Blur tool is a very interesting tool because you get this little path right here, this little blue thing, and it's got three parts to it. It's got a start point, a midpoint, and an end point. The start point is where the blur actually starts. The midpoint is sort of how the curve flexes, and then the end point is where it stops. So what I'm going to do with this is just take it and drag the end point all the way over here to the left, and then we're going to kind of bend it down in the middle. Because what I want the clouds to look like is if they're kind of rushing by us just like that. And I might even move the start point down just a little bit. Then I'll create another curve by clicking once, and then I'll create another midpoint by clicking again, and then I'll create an endpoint by clicking a third time. If I want to end this path, I click one more time on that same area, and that completes the path. Now I'll draw one straight up from the bottom as if they're coming straight over us. So I'll just click once, click twice, and then click one more time to complete that. And then let's do the same thing on the other side. So let's do 1, 2, 3, click again to complete, and then 1, 2, and 3, click again to complete. And this time I might move this a little bit so that it's not so close to the horizon line. If you want to add in some more here, you certainly can. You don't have to. I'll just add in a couple more for effect. That way you can kind of see it. Basically what you want, because clouds, when they're being affected by wind, they blow in all different directions. So it's not just a uniform path that they would follow. So you want to create a lot of different places that these clouds might be moving within this composition. You'll also notice that as you're doing this, you're completely destroying your city underneath. But don't worry, because all smart objects come with a layer mask, which means we can easily remove the effect from that particular area. Now what you want to do is decide what type of blur you want and how much of it you want. So I'm going to stick with the basic blur. I am going to increase the speed to something like 75%. And when I do that, you're just going to see that it just gives me a little bit more of a blur. If you want to go crazy with it and get really blurry, you certainly can. I don't think going too high is a good idea. I think it looks unrealistic. As high as I would go is probably like 75, 85%, something like that. Let's do something like, let's just do 80%. And then the taper, how much do you want it to taper off? Let's just do maybe like 10% for the taper right there. And so now I've got this really cool blurry sky and I'm ready to commit to it. So all I'm going to do is hit OK. Then once I hit OK, which might take a while, by the way, depending on the speed of your computer, so don't worry if it takes a minute. Just be patient, pause the video if you have to, and then you can come back. But once that's been applied, you'll see the blur on the image, and it's going to look kind of funky. I mean, the bottom part of it is really going to look messed up, but that's by design. Inside of the layers panel, locate where it says smart filters, and to the left, there's going to be a little white box. That's your layer mask. This is how you make the city go back to normal. So select that white box. You'll know that it's selected because it'll have 4 little brackets around the edges. And then what you want to do is grab your marquee tool, and then right around the horizon line, just click and drag a box that goes all the way around the bottom of the city, something like that. Make sure you're still on that layer mask. And then what you want to do is make sure your foreground color is set to black, and then hit Option Delete on Mac or Alt Backspace on PC. And that's going to then remove the effect from the city. I'll press Command or Control D so you can see it. Now that looks pretty good, but if you zoom in on it, you'll see there are some kind of harsh lines, and occasionally you might even clip in some of the buildings. So let me show you how to get rid of those. Stay on that layer mask, grab your brush tool, and then just brush out some of the harsher edges that might exist around some of these areas. I don't have that many because I just happened to get lucky that one time, but when you're dealing with things that have a lot of trees and buildings and stuff like that, you're gonna have a lot of cleanup to do in this regard. This is a pretty easy image to get this effect on, but in general, that's how you're gonna do it. You're just gonna go and you're gonna clean up those edges. But look how cool that looks. Now that sky is just coming right at us, right over the top of this city, which is super awesome. Now, I also want to run an effect on the city itself. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to duplicate the layer by pressing Command or Control J. It's going to give me just a duplicate of that layer. Then what I'm going to do is reverse the layer mask on the smart filter so that I'm now working on the city as opposed to working on the clouds. So I'll select that layer mask and then press Command or Control I on the keyboard. And what that's going to do is make the city look really bad again. Now click the eyeball next to the word Blur Gallery, and that's going to make the city look normal. Keep the layer selected, go to the filter menu, and go down to Camera Raw. And inside Camera Raw, what you're going to do is you're going to make a couple of adjustments here. You're going to add some texture into this to kind of make the buildings a little bit more defined. So I'll go like plus 50, maybe like plus 15 on the clarity. And then I'm also going to do a little dehazing on there as well, just kind of darken it up. You could also mess around, because the clouds are so very red, you could mess around with the temperature of this to kind of warm it up a little bit if you want. Try to match that redness a little bit. And then once you're finished with this, go ahead and hit OK. And that's going to apply that to the image. But you'll notice your sky's gone. Oh no, what are you going to do? It's pretty simple. You want to Command or Control click on the layer mask of the smart filter directly underneath the city right here, then hit layer mask. There we go. Now you're going to notice that harsh line a little bit there. That's no problem. All you have to do, grab your brush tool and then just kind of blend it in like so. There we go. Painting with black. Final step, adding an adjustment layer on top of everything. I'll add a vibrance adjustment layer here to make everything kind of uniformed and really red and cool looking. And there we go. That is how you create a rush of clouds over a city. You could apply the same thing to water, or you could also do something kind of like this, where you put a person in motion as well. It's the same basic technique, but you're just using different types of masking and different ideas about how the motion is supposed to go and so forth. So the path blur tool is a very powerful tool that everybody should know how to use. And now hopefully you know how to use it, and you can start thinking of ways that you can apply it to your next project. So that's it for today's tutorial, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, go ahead and give this video a like. And if you have a question, comment, or concern, feel free to drop them in the comments below. You can always find me on Twitter. I'm at Justin Seeley. Then you can always follow me on Instagram. I'm at the Justin Seeley. And if you haven't already, I would really appreciate it if you could go ahead and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you can get a notification each and every time I post new content. Again, that's it for me. Thanks a lot for joining me. Hope to see you again next time.